You're listening to the voice of IWA Flip here on Interfed Radio. Welcome to another edition of Play Your Way. And this is going to be our second segment with the 8-time IWA Singles Champion, the leader of the 5-time Stable Wars Champion Ace, and the Ace Hole himself, Howie Sandberg. Howie, welcome back.
Phil, brother, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh man, dude, you know what? Last time we left off, your brother had just gotten kicked out of the IWA. And first of all, man, that show was awesome, brother. I got a lot of great feedback from it. Shout out to Tony Pasante. Hopefully we can get you on the show and cover some more action. Shout out to Mike Drake, who thinks he can fill in some blanks from some time periods that we're going to skip over. Shout out to all the other wonderful managers that reached out. Special shout out to the other IWA, or the original IWA asshole himself, Jeremy Nace. Jeremy, welcome. We'll have you back soon as well, brother. But Howie, you guys got kicked out of the IWA, or your brother did, and that just sent you into what? I mean, how does that feel? I can't even imagine getting kicked out.
Well, it didn't feel good. There was nothing positive that could have been drawn from that, as far as feelings go. And it was very unceremonious. It was very much out of the blue. I think we covered last time towards the tail end of the segment that my brother just simply got a bulletin in the mail and it said refuse service. And
now just to remind the listeners, the reason he got kicked out, he posted on some bulletin board or one of the print. What was it? Did they mail it out? Was it something that got mailed out to people, or?
To this day, I don't know if the IWA and Johnny B in the office physically saw what was written, either whether it was sent to them or an email was sent to them. But, Jay was very outspoken, for sure. The I magazine, which I believe Zach Gargis has, and is going to send to Kevin Hurley. I'd love to take a look at that entire publication. I think, if memory serves me right, it was the article in there, but I found an old Money League bulletin from '97 in which my brother had a set of comments, and of course we were heels, and he had some derogatory comments in there about IWA botches and strategy mishaps, and took some shots at them even in there, and ironically they published it. So
nice.
So I guess either slipped through their censors, it couldn't have been that bad, right? So. But it was difficult because we loved the game.
Okay, wait right there. So since you brought something up, sure. When's the first time you actually realized that they had censors?
Wow, it was pretty early on, actually. 1990. Well, I started in '94, and it was probably in either '94 or '95. And in my mind, I was using a finishing move. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was definitely innocuous. There was nothing that was that terrible about it, and they changed the name of the hole. And I was like, thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, it's like
that's not what I put down.
Right. I was like, oh. So I figured that out kind of early, but it was weird because sometimes you could get through the most heinous, terrible things in your comments, so you just never knew.
I forgot what name it was that I sent in. Something stupid, also something childish. But I remember when I got the bulletin, and it had well, obviously I knew it was the character that I had created because it had my stable initials, and it was like the Choco Master, and I'm like, the Choco Master, like this is nowhere near what I wrote down. But I knew that they had censors, I was like, oh man, that's when I found out that okay, somebody is actually paying somewhat of an, attention to this.
And the funny thing is, you could often get through little racist innuendos if you're trying to draw heat. And I shouldn't even say race. I mean, today I'm sure it would be construed as racist, but we talked about offline. In the 1980s, the WWF was doing stuff with Tito Santana and Ted DiBiase, just little things where they push the envelope more. But you could pass through certain things and say, wow, how did I get past the censors? And then something totally they would censor, and you'd be like, what are they doing?
Oh man. Yeah, no, sorry to drag you off into a different tangent, but when you said it, I was like, I wonder when's the first time he noticed it. But okay, so IWA catches wind of your brother saying X and O's, and they're upset, so they kick him out. Now, did you continue to play by yourself, or?
Yeah, great question. No, I immediately, as passionate and as into the IWA as I was, once I got so angry, I quit right then and there. I made up my mind right then and there. There's no way I'm gonna continue to play. So what do? I would say most really great managers in IWA history I'd use the adjective obsessed or obsession to describe. It almost takes an obsession to be that great. And I don't have any qualms in admitting I probably was pretty obsessed with the IWA at various points throughout the years. So what do? You love this game. So all I could think about was, well, I don't want to just quit play-by-mail wrestling entirely. I enjoy this too much. So what can we do? And you're thinking, well, at least I'm thinking, I'd like to try something a little bit different. And I'd like to offer an alternative to the IWA for managers who maybe aren't thrilled with the service that they're getting. And that's how the International Wrestling Federation, or the IWF, came about. My brother and I, we ran it together. And full disclosure, it was initially, it didn't evolve. Initially, it was vindictive, absolutely. I wanted to stick it to them, absolutely. Now it evolved, and it became an entity in and of itself. And over the years, I wouldn't even give the IWA a passing thought, honestly. But it didn't start out like that. If we're being completely honest with each other, it was definitely, well, they gave us the boot, so now what can we do? And maybe we can have some fun with this too. And it was a lot of fun. That's how it started.
Now, were you guys mailing out just like they are, or?
Yeah. So, same concept, same general concept. We're going to mail, bulletins out to our managers, and we had a fairly decent amount of managers that did join, because I think there was demand to try. I think there was an interest, certainly, in trying something different, seeing what it's all about, a curiosity, certainly, if nothing else, and we started out, we never grew past more than 4 or 5 leagues, which was more than enough for what we wanted to do. The core 4, over the course of the time, were in the Continental Division. We had the Canadian Pride Wrestling, which was CPW. We had United States Wrestling, USW. Then in the second division, which was, I believe, the Tough Guy division, we had the Hardcore Blood Wrestling League, HBW, and this was an uncensored league, which was appealing to a lot of managers who were feeling stifled creatively in the IWA to just speak their mind and say and do whatever they want. And then Sheer Technical Wrestling, STW, which was, in my mind, with CPW, probably STW was the best league in the IWF.
Interesting you say that, because someone from that era must have brought it back, because I know the STW right now is back, or in its, I guess, the framework within the Steel's AWL. So I know somebody from that group. I think it's either Terrence or one of the managers that was also associated with you kind of brought it back.
That's awesome.
Within league play, as you well know, in league, like just to try and So I know they brought STW back, but I'm gonna throw a couple other initials at you and see if any of these ring a bell. You familiar with GPWF?
That sounds very familiar, but you.
Okay, what about You Win?
No.
What about Ace Wrestling?
Ace Wrestling? No, I don't think so.
Okay, what about UWA?
UWA sounds familiar.
APWA?
That does not.
CWA?
Ooh, vaguely.
Okay, because one of the other managers that actually joined the IWF, this is Chris Schmidt. And I've been trying to get Chris Schmidt on podcast for a long time. He said he was in the IWF from 1999 to 2004.
Correct. Yep, Chris Schmidt, or Schmitty, as we.
Schmitty, yeah. So he was also in all those other play-by-mail federations, believe it or not. He said I was in the GPWF in 2003. I was in UWin in 2003, Ace Wrestling in 2006, APWA, CWA, and of course the IWA since 2008. So I guess there's a lot more play-by-mail than I know. I mean, obviously, how many of these are still around today? I know FWA recently came back, so. But yeah, I mean, there are other play-by-mails. I mean, so it's interesting to hear that you guys also started your own.
Yeah, I joined around the time of the IWA. I joined one called the PWA. Pretty sure it was called the Fantasy Wrestling Alliance or Association, something like that. But fantasy was PH, and I think that was based out of Texas. That was like an angle-based fed. It was interesting. It was different than the IWA. Not good or bad, just different. But so we started with the 4 leagues in the IWF, and like I said, we had a pretty nice core of managers that joined, or at least wanted to test it out and try it out. And we wanted to give a little something for everybody. So Hardcore Blood Wrestling League was uncensored, and it was vile and extreme, and it was very much more manager-based, where the other leagues, over time we'd see this as well, that the IWF really was an angle-based and storytelling type federation. Ironically enough, not necessarily what I was known for in the IWA, but that's really what we were producing. Now, Hardcore Blood Wrestling was not like that, and there were managers who were way over the top, and there were some that were in there just kind of like, let's see what this is about. Well, the IWA got wind of the managers that were in the IWF, specifically in Hardcore Blood Wrestling, and kicked out these managers. My brother specifically, but I think myself as well, I quote, Johnny B referred to us as a quote-unquote pathological anathema.
Howie, I'm not even going to pretend to know what that word means. What in the heck?
About that word, but yeah, I mean, it's somebody sent them a bulletin. I don't know if it was Keith Maple or somebody, but Keith Maple, maybe it wasn't Keith, because I think Keith was a part of this Dirty Dozen that was kicked out. Tim Zokin was another one, and I understand that for what Hardcore Blood Wrestling was. I mean, there were some wrestler names in there. There was a guy by the name of Evil Eli, Whitney Smith, who also played the IWA as well. And he had the mutant dog, and I don't generally make a habit out of cursing, because I think you can get your point across without doing so. But I don't know if I'm allowed to say it on in this forum. Can I use? He he had the mutant dog fucker, and he had a name that even I was disgusted to even print, but he was warped. He had a wrestler named the Baby Raping Bastard.
That's going the dark side.
Right, and even being an immature 20-year-old, I loathed even having to print that. But well, if we're going to call this an uncensored league, so there was a lot of really real envelope pushing, and thankfully the IWF or the Hardcore Blood Wrestling really did fizzle out. It was not our crowning achievement by any stretch, but because Johnny got wind of this bulletin, he saw this, and the managers he could prove were associated with it, he didn't want in the IWA, and I can understand that. I can. Where I do find it's unfortunate is managers that had nothing to do with such vulgarities that may have been kicked out. Just guilty by association. It's kind of like in the analogy, well, McDonald's and Burger King. Maybe you're a loyal McDonald's customer because you like the Big Mac, but you happen to be passing by a Burger King, you're going to Burger King. McDonald's hears about it and says, no, we're not going to serve you anymore because you ate a burger.
Yeah, that's chicken shit. And again, I'm sure they had their reasons at the time. I honestly think the communication factor with today's game is a lot better. I mean, I know you and I have a short history, so when I commissioned a league, I was like, I was pumped up. My league was in the top 10. I was like, oh, this is awesome. Let me ask for some league perks. Let me ask to see if maybe they can make it a cash league. Not knowing that these people that had these cash leagues have been in the game for 40 freaking years or 20 or plus years or whatever the hell, And, now obviously looking back, I'm like, okay, I know why that person has a cash league. He's been in the game for freaking, 20 plus years, It's like, I get it now, But at the time when they didn't give me the reward or any perk, I was like, I'm done commissioning. I'm done. It's over. I remember. Forget how big the game is. I mean, the game's history is, years and years, like you're just mentioning. I mean, they've had their interactions. They've had people go outside and try to compete with them. So that's trippy.
So we had that happen, and it was that was certainly unfortunate. The IWF, like I said before, it didn't start necessarily with the intent to be an angle-based storytelling type federation, but that's really it became and evolved into. And
now, who was the biggest push right there in the IWF? I mean, you say angle-based. I mean, who was? I mean, because I always think of angle-based play as kind of like a Dungeons and Dragon type ish, where you're gonna have your storyteller. You're going to have your person pushing the buttons, running, like the McMahon, the person pulling the strings who was pulling the strings there? You?
Right. So, to this day, I will not take credit for the IWF being the success that it was. It's the managers all the way. And I'll name some managers, give them their just due and the credit, because without the managers and the collaboration and the team effort, the IWF could not have been what it's become. So when I think of the IWF, the first guy that I think of is a guy by the name of Nathan Couch. He was a brilliant storyteller. He was commissioner of Sheer Technical Wrestling. He would write matches upon matches in his commission. Nice. I mean, it was awesome. He had great characters. He had some guys, and they were all unique. Every character was different. He had a real flair for how to write. Some of his famous wrestlers in CPW, he had a guy by the name of Mac Daddy Freddie Fuller, just kind of like a pimp character. Mostly a heel, but I think he turned babyface at one point. Avatar the Collector and STW are two of his more Blaze Colton, Time Bomb, I think it was Time Bomb, Blaze Colton in STW. And he was just so committed. He would write trash talk for every league and contributed so much. And the IWF definitely would not have been anything without his contributions. And ironically enough, a lot of the big players in the IWF were not big players in the IWA. They weren't. A guy by the name of Damian Mazora, his famous characters, Lucian Champion and Mercury are two that come to mind. We had Terrence Haggard, who is in the IWA or has played in the IWA.
I know Terrence. We've had him on this show. I mean, he's another one. I think him and the other people in the Steel, keep that the Steel. They currently have what's known as the Steel Interfed title going around. And as you know, bro, I mean, everything like that has to be coordinated. So you got a group of people that, like you're mentioning these guys here, and I'm thinking, the current, little groupings that we have throughout the IWA. I could imagine, like you said, if everybody's on the same page, you got some great characters going. It becomes such a blast, bro.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was awesome. These guys would either collaborate online together on where they'd like to see an angle go or even talk on the phone. I had so many conversations on the phone with Nathan Couch. Terrence had a character named King Butcher who, at one point in Canadian Pride Wrestling, feuded with a character named President Sandberg. That was myself.
Nice.
We were feuding over his sister because I guess in the storyline I had the hots for his sister had the hots for me. I think it was probably the former, and he wasn't too happy about it, and we feuded over it. Some other guys that certainly deserve being mentioned. Randy Mercado had a trio called the Underdogs, and they were your quintessential babyface trio. Ironically enough, I think in fact, I know he had a character named the Phoenix Steve Christensen, who was a big singles star. And he was arguably the biggest crossover star between the IWF and the IWA because he returned later in the 2000s to the IWA and actually won an IWA World Singles title.
Nice.
Yeah, it was very cool. John Davis managed Chaos Knight, another big-time contributor to the IWF. Some other names, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Steve Shetler, legendary manager in the IWF and the FWA. Big Dread Vetter, the One Orlando Rock. Some other guys.
Now, while you mentioned the FWA, shout out to them. I think they recently made a push to come back as well.
Yeah. You know what? I think it's great that there's an alternative out there for folks. And I think if you're looking, I've heard nothing but great things about the FWA. So if you're looking for something a little bit different where angles are at a premium, then, you might want to give it a shot. Some other guys that certainly I should mention here because I don't want to not mention them at some point. Chris Schmidt, you mentioned before, Dangerous Dave Howard, Dan Marks.
Oh man, and a double shout out to Chris Schmidt, man, because man, the angle that we got going on in one of the Diamond leagues is probably craziest, probably one of the wildest leagues right now, the Wicked Wars League.
Nice.
He runs a character named the Kabuki Dragon.
He had him in the IWF as well.
Yes. So he's well traveled. So I have a female character in the Wicked Wars League who's the valet to one of my fighters there, the Dream Slayer. So her grandfather was actually killed in Japan by one of the kamikaze, war pilots. Came down. So that's the way the history brews from that. So.
Nice.
She has like this, she wants revenge. This is the bloodline. So they actually attacked him and peeled off his face because they wanted the mask they wanted his face. Oh man, the Wicked Wars League, Howie. That
Love it.
only in the so now the Kabuki Dragon wears like I don't want to call it a gimp mask, but like I guess like Kane, because he
Mhm.
has he has all the scars. So we're running that angle right now. So shout out to Schmitty, man. Lots of fun right there.
Yeah, Schmitty was a loyal manager for a long time. I thank him and for that. And Schmitty was very old school. He would hand write the comments, which was, and it's not his fault. You can do that. It's totally fine. But it was a little bit more of a pain for us because we'd have to retype the comments and put them in, where most people would just like email the comments and we'd copy them.
Oh, that's crazy. That's right, because you guys were running the thing, so you guys would have to transcribe. Oh, that's nuts.
Right. Right. After I get through the shout outs here, I'll give you some insight into some of the challenges as well from running the game at least, and that was one of them. But Andrew Lambrick, Solomon Shaw, God Complex, Legion Cage, CPW, definitely a legendary manager there. And then Jeremy Nace played, Jason Mento played, some managers that IWA folks will recognize. And they didn't play for years, but they played in the beginning, tried out. Jerry Martin, Mike Cardella were a few as well. But like I said, without these managers, this game would not have been what it was.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I mean, you have someone like Jeremy Nace also in the Wicked Wars League, and I'm thinking, all right, this guy's he claims to be the asshole. He claims to he's all, and I like I said, I've had him on. He's a great guy, brother. Like I said, but who does he bring in? What character does he bring to the wickedest league in the game? Stephen Q. Urkel. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, bro. You brought Stephen Urkel. He's like, oh yeah, watch. We're gonna have a lot of fun. I'm like, holy shit, man.
Uh,
The comedy, bro. The comedy side, that X factor. So you gotta love it, man. Just
yeah, we had Nathan Couch kind of turned the Mr. Attitude Jeremy Nace character into sort of like a comedy character, which I'm not sure if Jeremy appreciated it or not, but if you know Jeremy, and he is a great guy, he uses the word bro a lot, which is fine. So it's like I'm like, hey, what's up, bro? So Nathan is kind of like a joke, a good like Broomania running wild type,
nice.
Spits on Hogan and Nace and Jeremy Nace, and it was interesting. But so some of the challenges, we didn't have any sort of like strat simulator or any kind of technology, so everything was done by hand, really, as far as like data entry and strategies, and so
Were you guys rolling the dice, or you guys were just kind of like, what should we make it?
That was predetermined well ahead of time, and I did like to think that there was a rhyme and a reason behind the whole value trends and patterns, and I think if you ask most of the guys, they'll probably tell you yes. But there was just no easy way to enter the matches where you plug it in and then it would spit it out. It was very time consuming and labor intensive. And I mean, the truth be told, we didn't make a heck of a lot of money off of the IWF, and that was never the goal in the first place, really. It was just a passion and something that I did to give it a little personal touch was each league would have what we'd call a promotional report. A promotional report would be written by myself, and it would be kind of a summary of all the angles in the league, all of the kind of a forum to put over the big angles and put over the various characters. And the promotional reports would have a few a babyface commentator and a heel commentator, kind of going back and forth with picture like a Bobby the Brain Heenan and a Gorilla Monsoon kind of having some banter back and forth where the Gorilla's putting over the faces, Heenan's putting over the heels, and they're kind of summarizing everything. And I think that people really enjoyed that because it did put a personal touch on the bulletins, and I think people like to see their name in lights and see, oh wow, I got a mention in this report, and it was something a little bit different and personalized. But again, I want to emphasize that was like a little side, like a caveat. The real work was being done by these great managers, and I'll emphasize that over and over and over again.
Oh yeah, I mean, if especially if you can get managers like you mentioned that are going to do the coordinating outside of so to bring it all together. Oh man, it's beautiful. Yeah,
it was so much fun to run this because I, as the owner of this federation, I would look forward to the match results to see because the angles, yes, the managers would work together in tandem on the angles, but ultimately the hold values would determine who's going over and who's going to win and who's going to lose. That wasn't predetermined. That was actually based on real hold values. And where the IWF was different than the IWA is the emphasis or the prestige, and this is arguable, but I think most managers would say the most prestigious titles were the in-league titles, or the commissioner titles, the STW World Champion or the CPW World Champion within the league itself. Not necessarily, well, he won the IWF World title because he had the best strategy out of all these four leagues. We did have that too. It was very similar to the IWA report,
and I think that goes back to the Dungeons and Dragon comparison. Like if you have a group of people and everybody is seeking that title, that in-league title, and everybody is talking about it, and you make it the most of the ones in the league. I mean, yeah, I mean that's the beauty of these play-by-mail games, and like you're saying, the IWF. Like you weren't expecting it, but it became more angle-based in league.
Oh yeah, and I'm glad it did evolve that way. It just was. It was so much fun to run this, and so you'd have your in-league pay-per-views, and when the holds would come out, managers weren't thinking, man, I wonder what my strats are for purposes of hitting the IWF report. They'd be thinking, well, I hope I have a really good strat because I want to win this pay-per-view match in the league, and whether it's a world title match in the league or just a grudge match or a big match. And that's where the emphasis was. And to that point, as far as stables go, I'm hard-pressed even today just going back in time and thinking about this and telling you what the stables were, because stables largely were inconsequential. They just it was a different kind of game. There was, and if there were stable initials, I guess clans and what Nathan Couches, but they were more for angles rather than like manager based. Unity.
Yeah, like with most of my characters, I mean, I'm not even going to pretend. I mean, I must have like 16 different stables on all my characters because I run different angles and they all just, like I said, I use the stables like you're mentioning for in-league stuff. It's like, this is my tag team. They're hopes and dreams. This is my other little tag team. They're, whatever. So anyways, but yeah, I mean, that's my style of play. I mean, that's exactly what I enjoy. Just the in-league stuff.
Oh yeah, and that was, similar. It was the wrestlers if there was a stable. A lot of times it was the wrestlers that were in the stable, not the managers. This just was not a manager-based type of game. So the IWF was run from 97 to 03, 04. It probably did extend to 04. So it was a fun 7-year run. Amongst this time as well, we'd have IWF-wide pay-per-views. It was the IWF-wide anniversary bash that would take place every year, and it was a promotional pay-per-view filled with your dream matches. So you picture so in some ways it was kind of ahead of its time, because later on the WWE would do its like brand separation deals with SmackDown and Raw, and we were doing that with these once a year pay-per-views and matches. Everybody would contribute. I'd even get in on the action, and I'd write. It was never my forte per se, but I'd write some match or two, then kind of chip in and help out. And we would always joke that Nate Couch and Nate would come up with an idea, and then a week later he would be seeing it on TV where WWE was doing it, or
You're like, they're jacking our thoughts. They're taking our ideas and running with them.
Yeah, I was joking with Terrence the other day about royalties, for some of this stuff. I totally, forgot, but there was apparently in one of the promotions a Tuesday night Dynamite, and for the AEW fans out there, they call their show on Wednesday Dynamite. I'm like, really? Not like so.
Oh man, that would be cool to be able to go back and track it and be like, look, this is ours. We coined it here. No, but you have, well.
Yeah, but it was in 2004. It just got to a point where, from a time standpoint, I mean, if I had my way, I would have run it forever. But just from a time standpoint, I just didn't have the time to devote to it anymore, and that's the only reason it went away. But those were great years and great times, and so and in many ways it softened the blow of what happened with the IWA, because it just gave us another creative outlet, a different outlet. And as we talked about online as well, during this time, I distanced myself completely from the IWA. To this day, I still have no idea what was going on from 97 to 06. And part of that was by design. And honestly, part of it, I just didn't care. And over time, any ill feelings I had really disintegrated. And they just went away. I say time heals all wounds. And it really did. And then, eventually in 06, I was contacted to make a return. And we'll talk about that in part 3, but great times. And thank you to all of you guys in the IWF who made the game what it was to this day. And I'm so happy that content was found and we put it on IWA Classic Man Cave so people can just check it out and see what it was about.
Oh yeah, I mean, good. Like you said, those memories, brother. Just and again, right now that you're mentioning that, anybody that listens to this show that wants to be on the show, I'd love to have you guys on. Old managers, retired managers, current managers, just anyone that wants to talk some IWA or IWF history, come on.
Yeah, I think it's great. I know I'd be interested in hearing stories from retired managers, whether you're looking to come back to the IWA or you're not. Everyone's got a story to tell, and it's fantastic you provide this forum for people to do so. So again, Phil, thank you so much, and I'll sign off with that, and I'll be looking forward to part 3.
Oh, no, man, I'm glad we found some time. All right, guys, you've been listening to the one and only the Ace Man, Howie Sandberg. As for myself, IWA Flip, we'll see you guys next time.